Hello everybody, welcome to this new episode. In today's video I would like to talk about ETL. ETL stands for extraction, transformation and loading of data. In other words, big data, heavy duty stuff. So as opposed to Talend ESB, where we do more of micro messaging exchanges, in Talend ESB ETL we're going to be working with very large files. So for this exercise I have a large file over 50 MB which I want to transform. Basically just the file is a JSON format. I want to parse this file and insert it into a database. The database that I'm going to use is SQLite. And for the demonstration I'm not going to process the whole file, but instead I will just extract a small chunk out of it that I can work with. So let's get started. I have my Talend ESB here. Yeah, you might be confused. I was talking about Talend ETL, yet I'm working with the Talend Open Studio for ESB. Well, what happened is that on Talend ESB, the thing is that you have some extra section here for routes, but you still have the job design. So the job design, this is the ETL part, and that's the part we are going to work with today. So the first thing I'm going to do is, let me just show you around a little bit what we have. I have a SQLite, the DB browser. I need to create a database first of all, right? I need to show you also the file, how it looks. This is the structure of the file. It has an object, JSON object. Inside the JSON object there is a array called data. Inside data we have objects, many objects. Right here I'm only showing just 3-4 objects because this is for the demonstration, but the actual file has over 92,000 rows. Actually, that was the end result. And what else do we have here? So I have this small document. I have one that will represent the model. It has only two objects, and yeah, that's basically it. The database which I'm going to create is here. So what I'm going to do is, in my database browser for SQLite, I will just create a new database. I will give it a location. I will save, and now it gives me an option to create my tables. I'm not going to do it that way because it's going to take long, but the dynamics is very simple. You just add fields, columns, and determine the proper types for the data, and that's it. But I'm going to go into the execute SQL, and I have my create statement here, which I'm going to use to go faster. So now my database is created. The table is called history, and now we can see here from the structure history, and here's my database. So far so good. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a job. Right click, create job BTC. By the way, this file is information about price action in Bitcoin that I was collecting, and yeah, the file grew so much that now I want to convert it into an SQLite database to do things with it. So once we created a job, we need two very basic things. We need to work on the metadata. The metadata, we need to do things like 1, create a database connection, and 2, create the model for the JSON file that we are going to read. So Talend needs to know the structure and in which way he's going to parse that file. So we're going to start by creating the database connection. I just right click on the database and I will give it a name, job BTC I will call it. Then I will need to choose one of those DB types. I will choose JDBC. Next thing I want to do, I need to provide a path to the JSON URL, the JDBC URL, right? So I will copy the absolute path towards my database, and from here I just type in SQLite colon, paste in the whole path. Next I need to install a driver if I haven't done so. I have installed the driver in my studio before, so this time I just need to mention it. So I need the exact driver that I'm using, which is this one. I copy my driver and I just paste it here, right? If I had not installed that driver, I will have to, instead of just doing that, I will have to just click on these little 3 dots and browse towards my location where my driver is installed. By the way, the driver you can just download from here, from the jar to download, search for the driver SQLite JDBC, and just right here you can click this little option here, unpack and install your driver. I have made videos about this driver before, so you can also look at those videos. Then select class name, important. If you just click once, it will automatically fill in the org SQLite JDBC for you. And then the next thing to do is just to test the connection. Click on test, it says connection successfully, pretty good. Now I just finish this part. So we are done with the database connection. Next thing that we need to do is provide the model for the JSON, right? Right click on file JSON, create JSON, give it a name, job BTC JSON. Next, input JSON, yes. And now from here you browse, this is okay, JSON path, and from here, from the JSON, you just browse and find your JSON model. Make sure that you can read all files here. I double click this one and it will show me my document in the structure it is defined, with a data array and these components inside these elements or fields. So I click next, and this is the most crucial part for the JSON parsing. You have on the right hand side, you have here path loop expression and fields to extract. So which means I want to loop through the array, so I grab the array and drop it in here, and which fields I want to extract from the array, well, those fields right here. So I just shift and arrow down all those fields and then click and drag them right here. So that's all. Now I need to refresh the preview, and the preview will tell me how Talend will parse those fields. It will present them in like a table. So now I just click on next, and here I just make sure that I make some little transformation. For this exercise I don't want to make things difficult, so I will choose to not parse the date as a date. Instead I will parse it as a string, so that we avoid complications. Here also, this one I will change the format. I will say this is for me a string. I'm okay if you treat this date as a string, no problem about it. So finally it's asked me to give it a name, so let's call it BTC, and I click on finish. So we are done with the metadata part. We are done with creating the database. The next thing we need to do is just start developing the job. So the first thing is going to be reading the file. So I grab the JSON, so I just open here, actually file JSON. Okay, here is the, by the way, I was supposed to keep it organized, so I just drop it into this folder. So I just drag this onto the board, and from here I can choose two options, file input JSON or extract JSON fields. I will choose file input JSON because that's what I want to do. I want to read from, this is a file input JSON, right? Well, next thing that I want to do is use a Txml map. If you just click somewhere on the board, type TX, it will automatically display all the options for you to choose. Then go back to the JSON object or component, right click on it, row main, bind it with the Txml map. If I open the Txml map, you will see that now it's presenting this as column, and so far so good. Now I need to work on the database, right? But before that, I want to continue the flow and just type t log row or row log. Yep, this won't do anything. It will just probably let's call it the end. It will just print onto the screen whatever I bind it here with. So let's say that I want to print one of those fields. Maybe I would like to see the price being displayed anytime, right? So I put it here. Now it looks like with a little exclamation mark here. I just double click and sync columns, and that disappears. So we are almost done with the flow. The next thing that I need to do is to connect the database. So I go into the database DB connections. I grab the one that I just made, drag and drop it onto the board, and here I have also again many options to choose. I will choose TDB input GDBC and right click on this object main and connect it to the Txml map. You'll see that automatically it will build a link in which it says lookup. This is a lookup link, so that's what we need. We need a lookup link because anytime these rows are passing through the Txml map, I want to, for each row, I want to do something on the database. In this case, insert data into the database. So the next thing that I need to do is I open again this Txml map, and from here I click on this little settings icon, and here it says load at once. I want it to load at each row, and I click on the match model all rows, and that's okay. So the next thing that I have to do is a very repetitive, so for that matter I think I will just demonstrate one or two fields, and for the rest I will pause the video since I don't know how to edit. Bear with me. So I click on plus, and I will give this global map key a name, call it date, and I will grab date and plug it into that date. I click another one, I call this one OI, again OI, plug it into OI, and so I'm going to do for the rest. But before, I'm going to pause so you're not gonna get bored. So I'm back, I'm almost done. Funding right here, and next funding time. So that's it. I created a global map keys for all these fields, and I bind it right here. So I will just click on apply so we don't miss anything, and okay. Now the next thing that I want to do is I need to find a way to make the insert inside my connection here and grab those global map keys there. So I click on this component again, I scroll a little bit up. I might want to maximize this so we can see better what we're doing. I need to provide a name for my table, right? My table is called history, so I have to use a custom object here. I'm gonna call it history. If I'm not mistaken, that's the name of my database. That's correct, history. So click on OK, and next I need to build my SQL statement right here. So in order to go faster, I think I have my insert right here. So basically what we have here is the insert, and the most important thing probably is to see the format in which we use the global map key. So that's how we use the global map key. Let's say I have an insert into history, and then I have to provide here all my fields. Let's say ID, OI, etc, 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 and then I'm going to insert the values, and here for the ID I will provide this. And let's say I want to insert here to grab one of my values, so I paste in this format. You see, I paste it in this format. Let me just first of all, usually I will have my constant here defined, whatever it is. Instead of a constant between these two single apostrophes, I will paste in this element. Just make sure that you can see properly what we have. I need to cast the object, whatever it is, into the type whatever it is that I need, right? So if it's a ball, I will cast it into a string forever, whatever. It can be a double or a float or a string or whatever the type it is. You always need to cast the global map here, and that's basically, you will do this for all the elements that you are grabbing in the Txml map. So in order to do this quick, I already prepared that statement. And there's another important thing here, returning ID. Why is that? Well, I will show you later. But the thing is that it seems like the component for the JDBC is expecting, when it interacts with SQLite, is expecting a result set to be returned from the database, and without that result set, which is usually a boolean, it won't do anything else. So I'm providing here returning ID just to have a result set returned from the database, as Talend is expecting, at least for SQLite JDBC driver. So then we see here that I am grabbing and casting into different types the data that I already mapped on the Txml map. So that's basically it. And now I'm going to save this, and I will reset the perspective from here, reset, so I can see exactly how it looks. If I click on the run job, let's give it a try. So now it failed. Why? Then let's see why it is failing. It's telling me missing that there is no such table history. So it says that it cannot find the table history. Well, let's see what was run there. So if I look at this, oops, I cannot copy this. So let's make sure that everything exists. So we're going to make sure that everything exists. So I want to see, okay, is this a real database? Yes, it is a real database. Maybe I didn't save this database, right? Because actually I haven't written the changes. So I write changes here, and let's try again. That might be the case. I didn't write the changes, so I try it again. And there you go. It went twice, and it created actually 2 records, because probably I only have 2 objects in that document. It says 100, but I see only actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 objects. That's kind of like strange, right? Because we are supposed to have more objects there. Let's see again which file it is. Oh yeah, that's because we are actually using the model instead of the real file. So as we can see here, the model is this, and it has only 2 objects, but the real file have a little bit more, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I only change this to read not the model, but I say whoops, can I change this from here? Change built-in property. Let's change built-in property, and now I can just find the one that I want to parse, and it's this one, 100. And that's it. I save, clear, and run the job again. And now we have 5 objects, as we saw in the, and it's printing the price. Oops, let's run it again. It's printing the price. Oh, what did I do? I wanted to yeah, it's printing the price for every one of the objects. So that's pretty much it. Now I can see the database probably here. If I just oops, select here everything from history, let me just, why is not doing anything? Yep. So this is, yeah, there are 12 because I run the job a couple of times, but yep, this is inserting. The only thing is not inserting is the funding rate. Maybe I just forgot to do something there on the funding rate. Yeah, it is here, but maybe there's no funding rate in this file at some point. Anyway, that's the idea. The same way you can do this with 5 fields. I did it with a large database, a large JSON file, with this one over here, which contains yeah, 52 MB. That was 92,000 rows inserted into the database. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show today. Thanks for watching, and yep, cheers.